What if the moment you're about to quit is actually the moment you're closest to breaking through? Here's something nobody tells you. Most people give up right before everything changes. Not halfway through. Not at the beginning. Right before the breakthrough. I've studied hundreds of success stories, and the pattern is almost identical every single time. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening in your brain when you want to quit and how to use it as fuel instead of a stop sign. If that sounds like something you need right now, hit subscribe. Let's get into it. The truth about giving up and why most people quit right before everything changes. Section 1, the quitting epidemic nobody talks about. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Every single year, millions of people set goals. They start businesses, begin fitness journeys, pursue creative projects, go back to school, try to fix broken relationships, build new habits. They start with fire in their eyes and conviction in their chest. And then, quietly, without a dramatic announcement, they stop. Not all at once. It's never all at once. First, they slow down a little. Then they skip a day. Then they tell themselves they'll get back to it next week. And then one day they realize they haven't thought about that dream in months. This is what I call the quiet quit, and it's far more dangerous than any dramatic failure. Because here's the thing about dramatic failure. It's visible. It's loud. It forces you to confront what happened, learn from it, and make a decision about what comes next. Dramatic failure has character. It teaches you something. But the quiet quit, it just fades. You don't even notice it happening. And over time, the accumulated weight of all those abandoned goals starts to do something really destructive to your identity. You start to believe, deep down, maybe without even saying it out loud, that you're just not someone who finishes things. That belief, that's the real danger. Not the quitting itself, the story you tell yourself afterward. So before we talk about how to not give up, I want to make sure we understand what's actually happening when we do. Because if you've ever quit something important to you, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you don't want it bad enough. And it definitely doesn't mean you're destined to keep quitting. It means you're human, and it means you probably hit one of the very predictable, very well-documented stages that every single person goes through on the way to doing anything meaningful. Let me show you what those stages look like. Section 2, the dip. Why progress always gets worse before it gets better. In 2007, marketing genius Seth Godin wrote a short but powerful book called The Dip, and the central idea of that book completely changed how I think about persistence. Here's the concept. When you start anything new, a skill, a business, a relationship, a habit, there's an initial burst of excitement and progress. You're learning fast, you're seeing results. Everything feels possible. This is what researchers call the honeymoon phase. And it feels incredible. But then something happens. The easy gains run out. Progress slows down. The thing that felt exciting starts to feel like work. And you hit what Godin calls the dip, that long, difficult stretch between starting something and mastering it. And this is where most people quit. Not because they can't do it, not because they're not talented enough, but because the dip feels like a signal they're on the wrong path. It feels like evidence that this isn't working. It feels like a sign to stop. But here's the truth. The dip is not a stop sign. It's a filter. The dip exists specifically to separate the people who want the idea of something from the people who actually want the thing itself. It filters out the casual from the committed. And because most people quit during the dip, the people who push through it end up with far less competition on the other side. Think about it this way. Learning guitar is easy and fun for the first 2 weeks. You learn a few chords. You can play the beginning of a song. People are impressed. You feel like a musician. Then you hit the dip. You need to build calluses. Your fingers hurt. The chords you need to learn next are harder. Progress feels invisible. It stops being fun and starts being frustrating. Most people quit here, and that's why most people can't play guitar. But the people who push through, they come out the other side with a skill that feels effortless because they did the work that most people weren't willing to do. This pattern repeats in every domain of human achievement: fitness, business, relationships, academics, creativity, language learning, entrepreneurship. The dip is always there, And the question is never whether you'll hit it. The question is, what will you do when you do? Section 3. What's actually happening in your brain when you want to quit? Here's where it gets really interesting and really practical. The urge to quit isn't weakness, it's biology. Your brain has one primary function that overrides everything else: keep you alive. And your brain, specifically the part called the amygdala, has been doing this job for hundreds of thousands of years. It's very, very good at it. But here's the problem. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between a real threat, like a predator, and a perceived threat, like the discomfort of doing hard work. To your amygdala, both of these feel the same. Both trigger the same stress response. Both activate the same urge to escape. When you're grinding through something difficult and your brain says, "Stop, this is too hard, this isn't worth it," that's your amygdala doing its job. It's trying to protect you from discomfort. It's pulling you back toward safety, toward ease, toward the familiar. Neuroscientists call this the threat response, and it's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. But here's what's fascinating. Researchers have also identified a competing system in the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of long-term thinking, planning, and decision-making. And when you're operating from your prefrontal cortex, you can override the amygdala's fear signals and make choices that are aligned with your long-term goals, not your short-term comfort. The problem is that the amygdala is faster than the prefrontal cortex. When stress hits, the amygdala fires first. And if you're not aware of what's happening, you'll react to that fear signal before your rational brain even has a chance to weigh in. This is why awareness is the first tool of persistence. When you feel the urge to quit, the single most powerful thing you can do is pause, even for 5 seconds, and ask yourself, is this my amygdala talking, or is this a legitimate signal that I need to change direction? That pause, that 5-second gap between impulse and action, is where your agency lives. That's where you take back control. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman calls this the process of emotional labeling, where you consciously name what you're feeling. I feel frustrated. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like giving up, as a way of engaging your prefrontal cortex and reducing the power of the amygdala's fear response. Studies show that simply naming your emotions reduces their intensity by up to 50%. That means that just by saying, "I feel like quitting right now," out loud or in your head, you cut the power of that urge in half before you've done anything else. That's not just interesting. That's a tool you can use today. Section 4. The 3 types of quitting and why one of them is actually smart. Before we go any further, I want to make something very clear, because I don't want this to become another video that glorifies blind persistence at all costs. Not all quitting is bad. In fact, there are 3 distinct types of quitting, and they are not the same. Type 1, strategic quitting. This is quitting something that genuinely isn't working, not because it's hard, but because it's wrong. Wrong fit, wrong timing, wrong direction. Strategic quitting is a form of self-awareness and wisdom. It's knowing when to cut your losses and redirect your energy towards something better, aligned with your goals and values. Warren Buffett talks about this all the time. His philosophy isn't never quit. It's about knowing which fights are worth fighting and being willing to walk away from the ones that aren't. Strategic quitting frees up energy. It creates space for the right things. It's not failure, it's editing your life. Type 2, circumstantial quitting. This is quitting because external circumstances genuinely make it impossible or inadvisable to continue right now. Health issues, family emergencies, financial crises. Sometimes life requires you to put things on hold, and that's not weakness. That's responsible navigation of reality. The key word here is pause, not quit. Circumstantial quitting ideally comes with a plan to return when circumstances allow. Type 3, emotional quitting. This is the one we need to talk about most, because this is the type that does the most damage. Emotional quitting happens when you abandon something, not because it's wrong for you, not because circumstances demand it, but because it's uncomfortable, because it's hard, because you're scared, because you're doubting yourself, because someone said something discouraging, because you compared yourself to someone further along and felt inadequate. Emotional quitting is a reaction, not a decision. And the tragedy of it is that it so often happens at exactly the wrong time, during the dip, when you're closest to the breakthrough. The single most important skill you can develop as a high performer is the ability to distinguish between these three types of quitting in real time, because they feel the same in the moment. Fear and wisdom feel identical when you're in the middle of them. Emotional quitting feels completely logical and justified when you're in it. So how do you tell the difference? Ask yourself these three questions. 1, am I quitting because this is wrong for me, or because it's hard right now? If the answer is, it's hard right now, that's probably your amygdala talking. Keep going. 2, if I wasn't afraid, would I keep going? At fear masquerading as logic is one of the most common reasons people quit prematurely. Strip away the fear. What does the decision look like then? 3, will I regret this more if I quit or if I keep going? Jeff Bezos calls this the regret minimization framework, projecting yourself to age 80 and imagining which choice you'd regret more. When you think from that perspective, the calculus often shifts dramatically. Section 5, the identity problem. Why I'm not a quitter isn't enough. Here's something that most motivational content gets completely wrong. They tell you to fight through it, push harder, grind more, be tougher. And while there's some truth to that, it misses a fundamental psychological reality. Willpower alone is not a sustainable strategy. Research by psychologist Roy Baumeister showed that willpower operates like a muscle. It fatigues. The more decisions you make, the more self-control you exert, the weaker your willpower gets throughout the day. This is called ego depletion. So if your strategy for not giving up is just try harder or want it more, you're going to burn out. Guaranteed. Because you're fighting against your own biology with a finite resource. The real solution is deeper. It's about identity. James Clear, in his groundbreaking book, Atomic Habits, makes an argument that changed how millions of people think about behavior change. And it goes like this. There are 3 levels at which change can occur. Outcomes, what you want to achieve. Processes, what you do. Identity, who you believe you are. Most people focus entirely on outcomes. I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to make 6 figures. I want to write a book. Some people focus on processes. I'll go to the gym 3 times a week. I'll save 20% of my income. I'll write 500 words a day. But the deepest, most sustainable level of change happens at the level of identity. I am someone who moves their body every day. I am someone who is responsible with money. I am a writer. Here's why this matters for quitting. When your goal is outcome-based, every setback feels like evidence that you're failing. And when you feel like you're failing, quitting feels logical. But when your goal is identity-based, setbacks don't threaten who you are. They're just part of the process of becoming who you're deciding to be. A person who says, I'm trying to get fit, will quit when the scale doesn't move. A person who says, I am someone who takes care of my health, will go to the gym even on the days they don't feel like it, because it's consistent with who they believe they are. The question isn't, how do I stay motivated? The question is, who am I becoming? Because when your actions are an expression of your identity, motivation becomes almost irrelevant. You don't need to feel motivated to do things that are consistent with who you are. You just do them. The same way you brush your teeth every morning, not because you're motivated, but because that's what people who take care of themselves do. So here's your action step from this section. Write down the identity statement that supports the goal you're pursuing. Not, I want to build a business, but I am an entrepreneur. Not, I want to be a better parent, but I am a present, intentional parent. Say it, write it. Start making decisions from that identity, and watch how much easier it becomes to push through the hard days. Section 6, the science of resilience. What separates people who push through from people who don't? In the 1960s and 70s, psychologist Martin Seligman conducted a series of experiments that would become some of the most important research in the history of psychology. He was studying what happened when people and animals were repeatedly exposed to unpleasant situations they couldn't control. And what he found was disturbing. Dogs placed in situations where they repeatedly received mild shocks with no way to escape eventually stopped trying to escape even when escape became possible. They just lay down. They stopped fighting. They gave up. Seligman called this learned helplessness. But here's the part that's most relevant to us. Not all of the dogs responded this way. About 1/3 of them kept trying, kept fighting, kept looking for a way out, even after repeated failure. And when Seligman investigated why some individuals were resistant to learned helplessness while others weren't, he found a critical variable: explanatory style, the story you tell yourself about why bad things happen. People and animals who developed learned helplessness tended to explain setbacks in 3 ways. Permanent: this is never going to change. Pervasive: this affects everything in my life. Personal: this is all my fault. But the resilient ones, the ones who kept fighting, explained setbacks differently. Temporary: this is just a rough patch. Specific: this is about this one area, not my whole life. External or adjustable: there are factors at play here, and I can influence them. This research became the foundation of what Seligman called positive psychology, and specifically the concept of learned optimism. Not naive, delusional optimism, but a trained, evidence-based pattern of thinking that keeps you in the fight. The most powerful insight from this research? Explanatory style is a skill. It can be learned. It can be changed. You are not stuck with the way you currently interpret setbacks. You can literally rewire how your brain processes failure and adversity. And that rewiring will change how long you stay in the fight. Here's how to start. The next time you hit a wall, the next time something doesn't work, the next time you fail at something, the next time progress stalls, catch the story you're telling yourself. And ask, am I treating this as permanent or temporary? Am I treating this as pervasive or specific? Am I taking appropriate responsibility without global self-blame? If your story is, I'm just not good at this, permanent, personal, pervasive, challenge it. Replace it with, I haven't figured this out yet, temporary, specific, adjustable. That word, yet, is one of the most powerful words in the English language when it comes to persistence. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck built an entire career around this concept. She calls it the growth mindset, the belief that your abilities are not fixed, but developable through effort, strategy, and learning. People with a fixed mindset say, I'm not good at this. People with a growth mindset say, I'm not good at this yet. And research shows, overwhelmingly, that growth mindset individuals persist longer, achieve more, and recover faster from setbacks than their fixed mindset counterparts. Not because they're smarter, not because they're more talented, but because they have a fundamentally different relationship with difficulty. To them, difficulty isn't evidence of inadequacy, it's evidence of growth happening. Section 7, the 5 stages of mastery, and why stage 3 will try to kill your dreams. One of the most practically useful frameworks I've ever encountered for understanding persistence comes from the world of skill acquisition. It's called the Conscious Competence Learning Model. And once you understand it, you'll never look at struggle the same way again. Here are the 5 stages. Stage 1, unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. You're blissfully unaware of how much there is to learn. This stage feels great. You're excited. Everything seems possible. How hard can it be? Stage 2, conscious incompetence. Reality hits. You now know exactly how much you don't know. You see the gap between where you are and where you want to be. This stage is uncomfortable, but it's actually progress. Knowing what you don't know is the first step to learning it. Stage 3, conscious competence. You're learning. You're getting better, but it takes enormous effort and concentration. Nothing is automatic yet. Every action requires deliberate thought. This is the hardest stage, and it's also where most people quit, because it's exhausting to perform with this much deliberate effort, and it can feel like you're still terrible at the thing, even when you're actually making massive progress. Stage 4, unconscious competence. The skill becomes automatic. What used to take enormous concentration now flows naturally. You've internalized the skill. You're good, and you barely have to think about it. Stage 5, reflective competence. You can now teach and articulate what you know. You understand the skill deeply enough to help others learn it. This is mastery. Here's the critical insight. Stage 3 is where the magic happens and where almost everyone quits. Because stage 3 doesn't feel like progress. It feels like grinding. It feels like you're not improving. But the reason it feels that way is that you've raised your standards. Your perception of what good looks like has accelerated faster than your current skill level. In other words, you're getting better faster than you realize. That feeling of inadequacy during stage 3? That's not a signal to stop. It's a signal that your taste is developing ahead of your skill, which means you're on the right track. Ira Glass, the legendary host of This American Life, described this gap perfectly. He called it the taste gap. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple years, you make stuff. It's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. He goes on to say, the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Keep producing, keep practicing, keep showing up. Because the only way through the taste gap is through it. The people who push through stage 3 are the ones who develop mastery. And they don't push through because they're special or more talented. They push through because they understand that stage 3 is supposed to feel exactly like this. Understanding the stage you're in changes everything. Section 8, Practical Strategies, the toolkit for not giving up. All right, let's get tactical, because understanding why we give up is important, but it's not enough. You need tools, real, actionable strategies that work in the real world on the days when everything inside you is screaming to stop. Here are the most powerful ones I've found. Strategy 1, the minimum viable effort rule. One of the biggest reasons people quit is that they frame the choice as all or nothing. Either you do the full workout or you skip it. Either you write the full chapter or you open Netflix. Either you put in 100% or you failed. This is a trap. The minimum viable effort rule says, on the days you don't want to show up at all, lower the bar dramatically. Not to 0, but to something so small that it's impossible to say no. Don't want to go to the gym? Just put on your gym clothes. Don't want to write? Just open the document. Don't want to practice? Just pick up the instrument. Here's why this works psychologically. Starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, momentum takes over. The resistance you feel before a task is almost always greater than the resistance during it. And research by behavioral scientists confirms that the biggest predictor of whether you'll finish a task is whether you start it. So don't ask yourself, am I going to give this my all today? On the hard days, just ask yourself, can I do the minimum version of this? You almost always can. And more often than not, once you start, you'll do far more than the minimum. Strategy 2, reframe the suffering. This one sounds simple. It's actually profound. Stanford psychologist Alia Crum has spent her career studying how the meaning we attach to experiences changes their effect on us. And her research has produced some remarkable findings. In one famous study, she told hotel maids that the physical work they did every day counted as exercise that met the Surgeon General's recommendations for an active lifestyle. She showed them why and how. A control group received no such information. 4 weeks later, the group that had reframed their work as exercise had lost weight, lowered their blood pressure, and reported feeling better, with no change in their actual behavior. The only thing that changed was the meaning they attached to their daily experience. This is the power of reframing. When you're suffering through something hard, when the work is grinding you down, you have a choice about what that suffering means. And the meaning you choose will determine how long you can endure it. Reframe the suffering as evidence of growth. Every hard rep is building strength. Every difficult conversation is building emotional intelligence. Every rejection is building resilience. Every failed attempt is building competence. Elite athletes use this constantly. Instead of dreading the pain of training, they associate it with becoming stronger. The discomfort isn't something happening to them. It's something they're actively choosing because of what it creates. You can do the same. When it gets hard, don't ask, why is this so painful? Ask, what is this building in me? Strategy 3, the progress journal. Here's a brutal truth about human psychology. We are terrible at perceiving our own progress. When you're in the middle of a long journey, everything looks the same from day to day. The changes are too gradual to see in real time. And so your brain, which is always looking for evidence to support its current narrative, will tell you nothing is changing. You're not getting better. This isn't working. This is almost always wrong. But it feels true. The antidote is documentation. Keep a progress journal, a simple record of where you started, what you've done, and what's changed. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be a note on your phone, a simple spreadsheet, a line in a notebook. The point is to create external evidence of your progress so that when your brain lies to you and tells you nothing is happening, you have receipts. Looking back at where you were 3 months ago, even if today feels frustrating, almost always reveals more growth than you thought was happening. This is also why before and after photos work so powerfully in fitness, not just as marketing, but as genuine psychological tools. Seeing the visual evidence of transformation is a circuit breaker for the nothing is changing narrative. Document your journey. It will save you on your darkest days. Strategy 4, build accountability architecture. Multiple studies in behavioral psychology confirm the same thing. Social accountability dramatically increases follow-through. A study from the American Society of Training and Development found that people who set a goal have a 10% chance of achieving it. People who commit to someone else have a 65% chance. And people who have a specific accountability appointment with someone have a 95% chance. Those are extraordinary numbers, and they suggest something important. The internal commitment you make to yourself is not enough. Not because you're weak, but because the social brain is enormously powerful. The fear of letting someone else down is one of the most potent motivators in human psychology. Build accountability into your pursuit. This could look like an accountability partner, someone pursuing a similar goal who you check in with regularly. A public commitment, announcing your goal publicly on social media to friends in a community, creates social stakes. A coach or mentor, someone who knows your goals and expects progress reports. A mastermind group, a small group of people who challenge and support each other. Financial accountability, putting money on the line, apps like BeMinder or commitment contracts where money goes to a cause you hate if you fail. The point is to create a structure that makes quitting costly, not just internally, but socially and financially if needed. This isn't about shame. It's about leveraging your social psychology to support your goals. The same instincts that helped humans survive in tribes can help you build a business, finish a degree, or transform your health. Use them. Strategy 5, the why stack. This is one of my personal favorites. When you're struggling to push through, surface-level motivation often isn't enough. I want to make more money, or I want to get in shape can feel abstract and distant when you're tired and frustrated in the moment. You need to dig deeper. You need to find your bedrock why. The reason beneath the reason beneath the reason that connects to something that genuinely moves you. Here's how the why stack works. Start with your surface goal. Then ask why 5 times. Not superficially, but genuinely. Each time, go deeper. Example, I want to build a successful business. Why? Because I want financial freedom. Why does that matter? Because I don't want to be controlled by financial stress. Why? Because money stress destroyed my parents' marriage, and I watched that as a kid. Why does that move you? Because I want my own family to grow up with stability and peace. Why is that your deepest driver? Because I believe my children deserve a different story than the one I grew up in. There. That's bedrock. That's a reason that can carry you through the dip. That's a reason that will get you out of bed when you don't want to get up. Financial freedom is easy to abandon when the work gets hard. Breaking the cycle for my children is not. Find your bedrock. Write it down. Put it somewhere you'll see it when you're in the middle of your hardest days. Strategy 6. Celebrate small wins, deliberately. The human brain runs on dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation and reward. And here's something important about how it works. Dopamine is released in anticipation of reward, not just at the moment of achieving a goal. This means that the way you structure your milestones and celebrations has a direct chemical effect on your brain's motivation system. Most people only allow themselves to feel good about progress when they hit the big goal. And since big goals take a long time, they starve their brain of the dopamine feedback it needs to stay engaged and motivated. Deliberate small win celebrations are not self-indulgence. They're neurological strategy. When you complete a week of consistent work, celebrate it. When you hit a milestone, even a small one, acknowledge it. When you push through a day you wanted to quit, recognize that as a victory. The more you train your brain to associate your work with reward, the more your brain will want to do that work. You're literally rewiring your reward circuitry to support persistence. This is exactly why gamification works so powerfully in apps like Duolingo. The streaks, the badges, the progress bars, they're not gimmicks. They're deliberate dopamine architecture. They keep you coming back. You can build this into your own pursuit. Create a milestone system. Set up checkpoints. Allow yourself to feel genuinely proud of showing up, even on the unremarkable days. Strategy 7. Environment design. Here's something that most willpower-focused advice completely misses. The environment you work in has an enormous impact on your ability to persist. BJ Fogg, behavioral scientist at Stanford and author of Tiny Habits, has demonstrated through decades of research that behavior is largely a function of environment, not character. If your environment makes the hard thing hard and the easy thing easy, you'll consistently choose the easy thing. Not because you're weak, because that's how human psychology works. The solution is to design your environment to make the right behaviors easier and the wrong behaviors harder. Want to write more? Close all browser tabs before you start. Put your phone in another room. Open your document before you do anything else in the morning. Want to work out more? Sleep in your gym clothes. Put your shoes right next to your bed. Schedule your workouts at the same time every day so they become automatic. Want to eat healthier? Don't have junk food in the house. Put healthy food at eye level in the fridge. You don't need more discipline. You need better design. When you reduce the friction between you and the behavior you want, and increase the friction between you and the behaviors you want to avoid, you're not fighting your psychology, you're working with it. Section 9. The stories that keep us going. What history's greatest achievers can teach us about persistence. Sometimes, when you're deep in the dip, what you need more than strategy is perspective. You need to remember that the struggle you're experiencing is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're on a path, and paths require effort. Let me share some stories that I come back to when I need that perspective. Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times before successfully creating a functional light bulb. When a reporter asked him how it felt to fail 10,000 times, Edison reportedly said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That reframe, from failure to data, is a masterclass in growth mindset. Every failed attempt wasn't evidence that it was impossible. It was one more piece of information about how to make it possible. J.K. Rowling wrote the first Harry Potter novel as a single mother on welfare, in cafes while her baby daughter slept beside her. She was clinically depressed. She describes this period of her life as rock bottom, as close to failure as a person could be without being completely destitute. The manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers. 12? The 13th said yes, and the rest is history. What if she had stopped at 11 rejections? What if she had taken the pattern of rejection as evidence that her work wasn't good enough? We never would have known. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Deion Sanders was told he was too small to play football. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times. The list goes on and on. And the thing these stories all have in common isn't talent. It's the decision to continue after rejection. It's not that they didn't get rejected, it's that rejection didn't become their final chapter. Here's what I want you to take from these stories. Not as motivational decoration, but as genuine, practical insight. Rejection and failure are not evidence that you should stop. They are almost always evidence that you need to adjust and continue. The people who changed the world weren't people who never struggled. They were people who struggled and chose to interpret that struggle as part of the path, not as a signal to leave it. Section 10. Building a persistence practice. The daily habits of people who don't give up. Let me wrap up the content section with something I think is deeply underappreciated. Persistence is not a personality trait you either have or don't. It's a practice. And like any practice, it can be cultivated through consistent daily habits. Here are the habits I see consistently in people who achieve long-term goals. 1. They start each day with intention. Before the world gets loud, they spend time clarifying why they're doing what they're doing. Journaling, meditation, reading something meaningful, some form of intentional reflection that anchors them to their purpose before the demands of the day begin. 2. They protect their energy ruthlessly. They know that willpower is finite, so they do their most important work first, before meetings, before social media, before the 1,000 demands that drain cognitive resources. They treat their peak energy hours as sacred. 3. They have a failure protocol. They know in advance what they'll do when things go wrong, because things always go wrong. They don't have to figure it out in the moment when they're emotional and depleted. They have a plan. When I miss a day, here's exactly what I do. 4. They curate their social environment. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Persistent people are intentional about who those 5 people are. They surround themselves with people who are doing hard things, who believe in them, and who challenge them to keep going. 5. They rest without guilt. Sustainable persistence requires recovery. The people who last are not the ones who grind themselves to dust. They're the ones who work hard and recover well. They understand that rest is part of the performance equation, not a betrayal of it. 6. They practice self-compassion. Research by psychologist Kristen Neff has shown that self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a good friend when you fail, actually increases persistence, not decreases it. The old belief that being hard on yourself drives performance is not supported by the evidence. People who are kind to themselves after failure are more likely to try again. People who are brutal to themselves after failure often avoid situations where failure is possible. Be kind to yourself, not as a luxury, as a strategy. Section 11, the final truth about not giving up. I want to end this main section with something that I think is the most important thing I've said today. The reason to not give up is not because success is guaranteed. It's not. The reason to not give up is not because the pain will definitely be worth it. Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes you'll give everything you have and still fall short of the specific outcome you were aiming for. But here's what I know with complete certainty. The person you become by refusing to quit is worth more than any specific outcome you could achieve. The discipline you build, the resilience you develop, the self-respect that comes from looking at a hard thing and choosing to stay, the understanding of your own capacity that only comes from going further than you thought you could. These things compound. They transfer. They make every subsequent hard thing a little less daunting because you have evidence from your own life that you can do hard things. And that evidence, that internal knowing, no outcome can give you that. It has to be earned through the dip, through the stages, through the days when you wanted to quit and chose not to. The goal is not just the destination. The goal is who you become on the way there. Don't give up, not because you're guaranteed to make it. Give up, because the version of you that pushes through is worth becoming. So here's the bottom line. Quitting is easy. Everyone can do it. But pushing through the dip, that's where your real life begins. You now know what's happening in your brain when you want to quit. You know the difference between smart quitting and emotional quitting, and you have the tools to stay in the fight. The only question left is, what will you do with this? If this video gave you even one insight that shifts how you face your hardest moments, drop it in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if you haven't already, like this video, share it with someone who needs it right now, and subscribe for more content that actually challenges you to think and grow. Thank you for your watching. I'll see you in the next one.